what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Premiere Uncut. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to keep up to date with the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate forum, which you should definitely all join. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Now, we're currently joined by a whole bunch of people on both Google Plus and Discord, so a very warm welcome to you all.
I was in the middle of explanation. Hello, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
I stepped away for a few minutes to take a call, but I'm back. Hello, all.
Can we continue the conversation?
Well, I was continuing, but I was cut right off.
Right. Yeah, Nathan muted all.
Adam, that shit is huge. What the hell was that? Spider?
Cricket. That next to me.
No, it's a giant cricket.
That's a cricket. I couldn't see.
I think we're having a problem in between discerning which context or which genre that we're in, and trying to discern what the actual reality is versus what the paradigm is. So I think there's a little bit of confusion in there, and I respect that.
Right. I think that the thermosphere is not exactly the same concept as that temperature difference layer that we've found some empirical data for. I don't think it's exactly the same concept.
Owen, with just sitting in the back garden with a magnifying glass and focusing the sun's light, I can see that there is certainly emissions which appear to be originating from that I can then focus. Now, whether I can absolutely nail down that is from a physical, it's kind of irrelevant to this discussion, because what we're talking about is it just optical light, visual light that we're seeing, or are there additional emissions coming from that source that we're able to use, such as with solar panels, example. Now, unless you're suggesting that there is an additional source other than the sun that's creating that effect, I'm kind of happy enough to accept that the energization of the atoms and molecules up there is coming from that source. Whether that source is local or whether that's an electromagnetic creation and focusing of an energy point, or whether it is something physical above the dome, in the dome, whatever it is kind of irrelevant to the point that I think there's sufficient evidence to suggest that energetic output comes from that big glowing thing we see.
No, I fail
nice
to see the
move,
Adam.
Nice move.
I fail to see the relevance in this specific argument.
I love where your mind's at. Adam's on a roll. Let him go.
No, I'm not letting this go at all.
Why not?
It's not relevant to the case, because I already said while Nathan was basically doing his startup, apparently, I was saying, look, if the sun is indeed the cause of that temperature layer, that layer temperature increase, then there must be some optical evidence to back that up. Otherwise,
stop
it's just
censoring Adam.
Hold on, I'm not done yet, please.
Stop! You censored Adam.
No. Let him respond, and then Adam can continue. Go ahead, Darwin.
There could be other causes than something optical in nature. There could simply be tension there, like electricity.
Okay, we don't need to hear the speculation. That's fine. That's enough. Great. Go ahead, Adam.
Preach it to him, Adam. Go down that same vein, please. You're speaking my love language.
No pressure, John. No pressure. Well, what I would say to that, Owen, is I validated my hypothesis with some postulation and some actual evidence that you could conduct yourself to prove that the glowing thing in the sky enables you to, with a magnifying glass, focus it. Have you got anything that you could postulate that would demonstrate how we could focus this energy source that you're saying is causing this in any way to demonstrate where this other energy source might originate from. That
Yes.
would be your secondary cause. Okay.
Yes. Namely, that you don't have proof that it is in that specific location at that height. It just appears.
No, that's
to be
just
coming
That's not
from
the
that
argument.
direction. You have no proof that at that height you will see it come from the same direction.
That's not the argument.
This is my argument.
That's a red herring to what he's trying to say.
No, your whole argument is based on the necessity of a specific location and radiation
It's not.
therefrom.
I'll let Adam take over.
No,
Go ahead. It's a red herring.
All I was saying there, Owen, was that there isn't anything. Like I said, with regards to just the use of a magnifying glass, we can postulate that we can focus energy, whatever it is, from that postulated source. Okay, what evidence have you got to suggest that there is something other than that glowing thing in the sky that you could use to back up by harnessing and focusing that energy that you're suggesting is coming from somewhere other than the light in the sky?
Okay, well, I could suggest a similar man-made setup. For example, let's just say an electric mattress, a heated mattress. Electricity conducts through it, causing extra heat where there normally wouldn't be any. It goes through the medium, it heats it up.
What?
So you're doing a mock charge and heat comes from the earth. That's what heats the earth up.
Well, you're using a magnifying glass to
focus.
to focus something that is observed right here. You see the daylight coming from that direction. You can use that daylight observed from your location to do that.
What?
Yeah.
I'd like to see you try the same
point
setup at that height and see if you can still use your magnifying glass to do that. I don't think so.
But that doesn't. Okay, yeah.
That's inane.
That's cool because that's critique of what I'm postulating. That's fine. I've got no problem with critiquing the postulation. What I'm saying is, you've said that there is something that it could be something other than the sun that's energizing the particles. What experiment or what observation have you got that would indicate that there is the possibility of this other thing? What causation, what postulation could you put behind say, well, it's not the sun, it could be this?
Right. So, well, I have no data to back up my concept, which it is. It's purely a concept, but it could be tested. You could actually, besides having barometers, temperature meters, also have, high voltage electricity sensors, things that can sense tension in the air. The static electricity tension. I don't know the specifics, but you know where I'm going at. You could have that.
Okay, that would make sense if you're saying that electropotential energization within the atmosphere could cause a excitation of molecules and increase their energy.
That exactly is what I'm saying. Very specifically that. Yes.
Well done, me then, clearing that up.
Thank you. I just didn't know how to say it properly. You did.
Adam, did you give up already?
You are?
Did you give up with that?
No. I was about to expand on that, and that's fine. I don't think the electropotential is sufficient to cause the disparity that we see in molecular energies at the different levels.
Exactly. It's a nonsensical inanity. Now, if you're going to give up, I'm going to go get some breakfast.
Yeah, but why not?
Because I don't think the electropotential that we've measured between per meter within the atmosphere is sufficient to energize the particles to the extent that you're seeing.
Oh, but that's based on measurements much closer to the Earth, and you have no proof that how it will gradiate. There could be a high spike up there, which could be potentially a lead to what actually causes the globe of the heavens and the sun itself. But you don't know. There could simply be a electrical spike. We haven't sensed it.
Your whole position is based on an argument from ignorance.
For that to hold true, then, Alwyn, what you would also have to demonstrate is that if you aren't in the direct line of the sun, or if you are in the direct line of the sun, you'd have to demonstrate that you're not gaining any energy from the sun. Now, if you're on the earth, and I'm in the shade because it's boiling here, if I go and stand in the sun, I will gain more energy. That's a given. So for your postulation to work, you would have to negate that first observation. Now, I know you're negating it by saying we don't know it works the same up there because we've not been up there and done it, but I don't think the laws of physicality are changing. And as long as we're working on the assumption that this thing is higher than the stratosphere, or the stratus plane molecules that you're measuring, then it's a very hard, you kind of not, let's say, to support your argument, you've got to poo-poo the idea that the sun adds any energy to anything. You've got to destroy that.
Yes, I do.
But you're not.
Yes, I am. I namely claim it's not a thing in a position. I do not disclaim the actual light reaching us, but to claim it is coming from a specific position in space, that is what I disclaim. And with it, any relevance to what
Yeah,
is
but that doesn't mean it doesn't have the same effect that he's talking about, just because you don't. You know
well,
what I'm
I
saying?
can actually, just like I disclaim a lot of baller arguments with that. So yeah, I do.
Well, when we've talked about star in a jar, so if we were to postulate that as the example, that actually that's where it's coming from, that it's a sonoluminescence, and it's that sonoluminescence that then vibrates out the energy from there, then again, the point is it's still, the source is still coming from what we can see. We may ascribe a different causational mechanism behind that, but at the end of it's still coming from that phenomena we're observing. We're not trying to say that phenomena's up there. It's clearly hot because I'm studying the sun and it's warm, but it's got absolutely nothing to do with the energization of particles throughout the atmosphere. Well, that would be denying reality a bit to me. Just to
I don't see it. Sorry.
We'll be denying the observations that you can make here on Earth and saying that they don't hold true up there, that their laws of physics don't hold true up there, or that the emanation of energy is lower down, therefore it doesn't affect it and it's directional.
I don't know. I don't see how that denial is even relevant when it should be very easily testable with visuals if it even comes close to being like that. Wouldn't be too much trouble, really, deducing it from camera work on one of these balloons. I don't know. It's just, I get the point, but I don't see why we should be debating this when it could be pretty easily resolved, both our approaches in one single go with a balloon. Maybe we should do that.
I think the obvious and simplest answer then would be to take two balloons. One goes up in the day in sunlight, one goes up in night and not in sunlight, and you would see if there is at different altitudes, if there is a relative temperature difference between those molecules that are exposed to sunlight.
That's good. That's good.
An experiment.
Yeah, that's really good, man. I like it.
It'd be an observation.
I wonder now, by the way, the chart that Paul brought forth, those temperature readings, I take it those are exact data, right? So was it taken from a balloon that went up during the night or during the day?
It was at night because there were stars.
Right. So there may be, regular changes. I'm very interested to see how that specific temperature fluctuation that was apparently registered at night, if that would be very similar during the day or if it would be another type of gradient pattern. It's fascinating to find out.
Obviously, if those molecules were slightly higher energized, i.e. the thermometer read a slightly higher temperature up there, then that would support my postulation that the energy source is from the sun and not an electropotential effect.
I don't know. I'd have to look at the data first and then I draw a conclusion. I think. I don't know. But if we put up a good camera on that balloon and the device you mentioned, the electrostatic charge meter or whatever, then we will have all kinds of answers, and then we can figure it out. maybe we'll come up with other ideas we haven't even thought of yet with that data. So I think it would be a worthwhile, what do you say, exploit to do that? Science
Endeavor.
balloon launch.
Endeavor.
Endeavor. Yes.
But the only conclusion we can reach at the moment would be to say that the only known source of energy input coming from above our heads appears to be the sun.
How about lightning?
Well, that's not energy input. That is exactly what you was describing. That's an energy release. It's not a constant input, and it's often released in the form of electricity, isn't it? It's not in the form of UV or anything in terms of.
True, but it does keep on building up until the tension becomes so high that it connects. So there is probably continual tension up there somewhere.
I wouldn't disagree with that.
People even argue that is the cause of supposed gravity. Okay, so it would be a worthwhile endeavor to figure it out, electrical wise, what is up there besides the pressure and temperature differentials, and also get a good view. I'd love to try it.
I'm just opening a bottle of wine. You have to bear with me.
Has it got that bad?
What is FE Core up to these days? Maybe they'd be interested in a project like this. Or do they have their hands full? I don't know.
I think they're a bit busy at the moment, from what I've seen.
Right.
They bought a huge tower somewhere in Eastern Europe for a lot of their experiments or tests or whatever you want to call them, to go forward with regards to line of sight of microwave and other transmissions.
Ooh, interesting.
So they've acquired somewhere that I think enables them to do lots of observation.
Right. See how far a signal can reach. Cool.
Oh, cracking up.
Is anyone still there on Discord or?
Yeah, there's a bunch of people on Discord, but everybody's on mute. They're probably all just listening to us.
There's another thing that all of this kind of comes down to for me, and it goes back this understanding of elastic and inelastic collisions with gases and the likes. Once you've got a grasp of that, it's one of the greatest proofs that, as Nathan keeps saying, gravity does not affect entropy. It also doesn't affect gas collisions, which, if it did, which is what they're postulating, which is why molecules don't escape the Earth in the Bohr model, is because gravity has a pull. Well, in any gas collision, if you took those two molecules and they hit each other and they shoot off in their separate directions, and one went perpendicular up, perpendicular down. Now, if the postulation that gravity has an effect on elastic collision, then the molecule would be heading towards the Earth would also be subject to an acceleration. So it would actually leave and continue to accelerate in that direction a lot faster, gaining energy, whereas the other molecule would go up, but it would also be subject to the downward pulling force, which is non-observable. And if we can get into the understanding of these elastic collisions, what temperature means and all that, you can start to then figure out that when these collisions occur, you can see that they are not in any way, shape or form subject to gravity. And therefore that disproves the myth that in some way gravity keeps pulling them back down.
Right, QE's summary is they move freely and randomly in all directions. They're not subject to any force, they're moving freely and randomly in all directions. Simple.
But I wonder sometimes, every time you say randomly, it still feels kind of weird because it doesn't really seem random at all. It seems actually like a perfect average. So maybe statistically, the supposed randomness of these molecules moving effectively because of the technical giant amounts just become a statistical perfect average. So I don't know. I find it confusing, the description sometimes, because gas release and everything is always so perfectly consistent.
Well, no, because they can bash off each other occasionally.
But how many real random things occur with gas pressure and everything? It's always perfectly consistent.
Well, what
On
I mean by that
average,
is, go on, Adam.
only on average. It's only on average. You've got to really. It's a bit sounding like a baller, but you've really got to go and understand the numbers that we're talking about. The number of, even just in a little balloon, the number of molecules that are in there that are whizzing around at such amazing speeds. One molecule doesn't hit the side of a balloon and make itself all the way to the other side of the balloon at 5,000 miles an hour. It's bound. It will never get to the other side of the balloon because it will hit something else, go off in another random direction. But it's that multiplication of all those random directions that basically gives it substance.
Right.
Especially when within the container, because everything is so random. But yes, I suppose it's a bit like within electron theory. If you were to take a snapshot of any one particular moment of time, yeah, in that minute moment, there may be a slight weighting of more molecules on one side of the balloon to the other in that snap moment. But a trillionth of a second later, they'll have all equalized again. It might be on the other side. And does that make sense? It is random, totally.
It's getting really into quantum territory, I think. But I get you.
No. This is physical chemistry. This is not quantum.
You're talking
mechanics.
about
This is
taking
physical.
snapshots of molecules. So
No, physical snapshot, as in where those an electron has a presupposition of where it is because it's nowhere at any one time ever. But a molecule has a physicality within the balloon. Those molecules are somewhere at any one time, and their placement within the balloon is random at any one time. But just because, so for example, if I said you weighted one side of the balloon, then suddenly all those collisions are going to occur much more rapidly on that side, spurting a load out to equal it. If the randomness was to generate a disproportionality, then it undoes itself and balances back out again because you've got suddenly a greater concentration in one area, so they spread out because they hit quicker and fill the other gap. Yeah, where there's less chance of a collision.
I get it, but although look, there's like interesting experiments or tests, whatever you could do with this. For example, even with liquid, you would have similar effect, but you could do it with gas by basically having some gas with smoke particles of certain color, so you can see it hang in there. And then if you add temperature to one side, you will see it exciting and then kind of pressing. And then you'll notice that the actual pattern by which the gas will be changing due to the temperature increase is not really that random. It's kind of a turbulence. It's a very specific fractal pattern, really. So the random factor, again, seems more conceptual than actual.
Let me just put what you're describing. What you're describing there is Brownian motion, and the Brownian motion is
it can't be fractal. Sorry, Adam, that's not fractal. You're saying terms in here that are they have no context.
But turbulence.
Sorry, Adam. Go ahead. I'm eating.
All I was going to say, the Brownian motion is a great exemplifier of what we think gas behavior looks like. But what you're seeing in Brownian motion is very small, solid pieces of matter, yeah, which are these smoke particles, the little bits of burnt stuff that you're seeing. And because it's so energized, because it's so hot, they're being carried around, and because they're so small. And you can see the light bouncing off them. Sometimes you can see one little solid particle hitting another, but it's so slow because they're solids. But actually, the gas is doing that 20,000 times faster in that same thing. It's just an example for you to try and comprehend what you're seeing there. But that's not gas behavior you're seeing when you're looking at Brownian motion. It's actually particulate behavior, which we approximate to represent gas behavior.
Okay. Thanks for making that a lot more complicated, but I get your point. But yeah. it's still something that I conceptually absolutely understand, but to find actual traceable representations of that is difficult to find, because every kind of clue that we can derive seems to follow other patterns. So I don't know. Maybe it. I think it works. I think the conceptualization works, and it very much correlates even with how gas pressure and everything works. So it's useful to visualize it that way. But if it's actually literally doing that, I don't know.
Has Spurs got to you?
No, no. Look, I'm having doubts. It doesn't mean this is a new project. Okay, it's just something that I've noticed, that I've accepted this, and I like it. It works. But still, I've never actually seen it work like that. I've never seen an actual demonstration. Oh God, I do sound like Spurs schema now. Shit.
Wait a second. Did you say did Spurs get to you?
Damn it. I'm just asking a question, and I'm not gonna whine on about this for months. Okay, so don't worry. I just like to look in a little closer. That's all. I'm not discarding it. I'm not even trying to find an alternative explanation. I just want to see it.
It's poison, basically, isn't it? It just pollutes everything. It's like dumping a load of nuclear waste into a river.
No, come on, don't do that.
It'll wash away eventually, but for the now, everyone's getting covered in it.
Well, just take a shower.
Or two.
Or two. Did we get any resolution? Sorry, I was making breakfast. Did we get any resolution on Adam's magnifying glass and the ant? Hello? Is my mic working? Hello?
Yeah, I'm just considering the response, John.
Adam is trying to enjoy his wine right now, so
I've come upstairs to build a cheeky low THC Italian split.
low THC
A low
Italian
THC.
split. What is low THC? What the hell?
It's 0.2% or less. They're beautiful looking buds, but they've got very little THC in them, so they're just cannabinoids. So they're quite nice for chilled smoke. It's a bit like when you go to the Caribbean and you have like the bleeding leaf lifters. If you have a nice glass of wine with it, it gets you a bit fuzzy.
So you're using that chemistry and pharmacology degree for other purposes now, eh?
Well,
That's
mate,
what it was always for. You know that.
You know, I cured my dad and I've cured my best friend's mum of cancer, both prostate and esophageal and lymphatic cancer with that stuff. Yes, mate.
Yeah, but in this instance, you're just on holiday, right?
I'm just chilling now, mate.
I went away, cured a few diseases, having some wine.
So you cured those people? Really? Do you have the experiments?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I've got all the data. I've got all of the blood tests. I've got
You do?
Yeah. I've got all of the data that shows the shrinking, particularly with my dad. What we've got is the prostate indicator hormone levels dropping, even when he wasn't receiving conventional treatment with what we were doing. And what we've got with Vin's mum, who was given 10 months to live just over a year and a half ago, and she's given the all clear now, is all of the scans showing the reduction in tumor size, even before she had one bout of chemotherapy, and the whole family swore never to have it again. We carried on with the oil treatment, and she's now been dismissed as no issues, no cancer, all clear.
Nice.
That's outstanding.
So
I would still love that. That's outstanding. Notwithstanding that, I'd like to see the experiments and the controls.
No, there's no controls, mate. It's unfortunately, it's at that stage where what I had to do was risk my professional career to fix my dad. And just like
Really?
Lynn's mom, yeah, because it's illegal in the UK. So I had to acquire this stuff. Luckily, there's lots of people that were happy to help me. And then I turned that crude plant product into the medicine to give my dad. And The same for Vin's mum.
So you made the oil
Yeah,
yourself. Wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Have you ever seen a film called Lorenzo's Oil?
Yeah. It's
Sounds like that.
about overloading a system to force the body into production of what it needs that it wasn't doing otherwise, isn't it? I think 20 years ago, Nath, but wasn't it a fatty acid that the brain required? That
Yeah, it was to myelinate parts of the brain so that they continue to conduct. They needed this particular oil.
Yes,
This
it was the production of myelin sheath production, which is basically what allows neurotransmission and the efficient neurotransmission of cells. If you don't have a myelinated sheath on a cell, then basically you don't work. It's the central nervous system.
That's what I'm talking about. Keep going. This is the area. Now we're in the area. We're way above the Spurs temperature.
Yeah.
Preach it.
I don't know a great deal about it. I remember watching the film. That's what I remember from it.
What was fascinating about him was it was just a father trying to save his son from his own decay, because he's not producing this long chain fatty acid within his own system. So he has to figure that out. And it's in the face of doctors and surgeons saying, you just don't understand how doctors work. We have very particular ways. And he's going, well, screw you. And at one point, he's discussing it with the parents, and he's saying, well, I think we should be doing this, in the face of something the doctor said, of course. And the other parent says, well, that's very arrogant. He says, well, look up the etymology of arrogant. It's to take ownership. And he's saying, that's what I'm doing. I'm taking ownership of this. This has become my problem, not the doctor's, for me to rely on them. And I think in many ways I like referring to it, because I think that people would call us arrogant because we're challenging what we call pseudo-scientists accurately. Well, they're considered by the normies as scientists, and to challenge what the priests of their worldview say is arrogant. Well, in reality, we're just taking ownership of our reality. So I see a lot of interesting parallels in that movie. So Lorenzo's Oil, if you've not seen it, check it out. It's heart-wrenching. It's a true story, but very, very, very good film.
I always think arrogance is earned, Nathan. And arrogance comes from somebody who's bullshit that knows what they're talking about. If you don't know what you're talking about, you can't be arrogant. You're just talking shit. Yeah. But if you're arrogant with people.
Say again, the last thing I heard was arrogant. I just got back. You talking about me?
No.
Well, yeah, maybe, John. That is the point I'll make it. That arrogance requires you to be an expert in that field. Otherwise, you're just a rambling fool. You can't be arrogant.
I'd like to get back to that cancer. Is it and THC? Was it certain levels of THC? Was it a combination? What did you do? I mean, try to keep it concise. You don't have to give me everything, but.
In most cases, you're looking at wanting. Now, you have to decarboxylate, so you have to cook it a little bit. But you're trying to get, for cancer treatment, a high, certainly at the moment, and there are different blends and strains which work for different types of cancer. But certainly for home production, your main goal is to try and achieve as high a possible a percentage concentration of THC. That appears to be the one that triggers the cells into cell apoptosis. Now, when we've had, and this stuff's underground in the UK, but there are people out there that will test the oils that you're producing for you.
Sorry to interrupt. I know you're in a role to something complicated, but that's contrary to what my understanding from what I had studied about it was a high concentration of CBDs, not THCs, and they're trying to remove the THC in the instances that I'd studied or looked at. Obviously just online bullshit, presumably made up by some arsehole, but I'm just saying that's what I understood. They were trying to remove the THC, whereas you're saying the polar opposite of what my understanding currently was. No,
it's going in all directions. There's different.
Hold on. Go on, Adam. I just want that clarity, because specifically the THC is what makes you high, so that's why people use it as a recreational drug, correct?
Yes, THC crosses the blood-brain barrier, and that's what it elicits a central nervous system effect. Yeah, whereas the cannabinoids are much bigger, heavier. The endocannabinoids, they're much bigger, heavier molecules. They don't tend to cross the blood-brain barrier, so they don't exert any psychotropic effect, and they just tend to exert the effects in the endocannabinoid system. Now, all of this matters, but from my understanding at the moment, and like I said, there are subtle differences with regards to different cancers, and as we develop this, instead of it being a kind of a kitchen garden kind of profession, once it's given into the realms where we do have, as John was asking for, proper controlled quality testing, where you take 50 people and some have them at this strength, this level, and this level, and this level of different proportionalities, and then you can measure across. And again, this isn't science. This is demographic medicine.
Right.
You can then start to see that maybe there are potential benefits to different mixtures and ratios of CBDs and THCs. But that development is to come. Yeah. For now.
I'm sorry to interrupt again. I've just got another supplementary question then in regards to the scientific validity. So in terms of if it was done with animal testing, this is going to hopefully not get the video demonetized or whatever. But if it was animal testing, could you establish scientific validity?
No, it'd still be the same.
No. You take out a lot of the placebo effect, don't you, in terms of that? Right. But you don't necessarily establish. What there is scientific evidence for, okay, is that and it comes from the University of Madrid, and this is like 20 years old, is that they took a load of cancerous astrocyte cells, and these are big, ugly fuckers. They're the ones that block other things coming into the central nervous system. They're very big, tough cells, and what they bred and developed, got cancerous ones of those, and then flooded them with the THC. And the scientific evidence that's there is that with full saturation of THC, astrocyte cells undergo what's called cell apoptosis, which is where the cell evaluates itself. If it finds that it is deficient in some way, not correct, or it is cancerous, then it recognizes that in of itself and switches on the genome to kill itself, not doing any harm to anyone else. And this is how the cannabis treatment works. It asks the cell to identify itself, and if under self-evaluation finds it's faulty, to shut itself down. And there is scientific data for that, specifically with regards to concentration of THC in the astrocyte, and how those different concentrations, once you get to full saturation point, how that initiates apoptosis.
Right. And that mechanism is the phenomena, because it's a unique phenomena that only happens with the cannabinoids.
When your cells are totally stoned and saturated, they
someone
evaluate and some switch off.
So hold on. Somebody's talking and I can't quite hear them.
Be identified as faulty in some way.
Did he say the cells were stoned?
Who was talking? Because I could hear somebody really vaguely. Was it someone from Discord?
That was Adam. That was Adam. Just got real low.
Did he say the cells were stoned?
Because I'm on the phone, I had a phone call coming in.
Sorry. Did he say the cells were stoned?
Yeah. I've been flippant. It's not a good way of thinking about it.
I thought he said that. I had to get it. Thanks, Adam. I liked it. Now, is this with just particular types of cancer? Because when people say cancer, there's so many different types. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When somebody says cancer and it cures cancer, that tells me that they're a friggin' knucklehead right off the bat. But like, what about like the aggressive types, like pancreatic? Is there any studies with that? I haven't checked. I'm just asking.
Yes, it does.
A good guy we interviewed, and we interviewed him on Iron Realm after I'd treated my dad, but before we treated
Joey Rocher
and friend mom. There's a guy called his name
Joey Rocher. Joey Rocher.
Say it again.
Joey Rocher.
No, it's Alan Park. Alan Park. He's a Canadian comic, and he was diagnosed with stage 4 terminal cancer from the prostate, but his bones were riddled with it as well, and they were crumbling and broken. And if you listen to it, it says a year and a half ago, it's like a 5-hour long show, but within that, it will describe that how he not only got rid of all that, but it also stopped the bone metastases, and how his bones have also healed. Because at no point in these treatments do we destroy any good cells. No good cells. So like I say, the cells get stoned and they go, whoa, dude, I am fucked, man. Let's just kill myself. And all the other ones go, yo, I'm great. Let's just stay as I am. So it's not like this machine gun in effect where modern medicine kills good and bad, and hopefully we kill more bad than good. It's about self-evaluation of the cell. So yeah, it does. Like I say, Don, no, I don't think you could throw a blanket over it and say it cures every cancer, but I think it has the potential with development to be able to do so, because it's working on a cellular function level. So what's important is to get that saturation point so that we trigger the cell itself to evaluate. And as long as you're able to do that, then it should undergo apoptosis if faulty. The learning we've got to figure out is, as I was saying, maybe some cells, like breast cancer cells, might be more responsive to a slightly different 50-50 mix of CBDs and THCs.
Right.
And that's the data that over time, hopefully, and there are lots of good doctors. Roxanne, the show that got banned with me talking about this, what's a Netflix thing with regards to it. And there's doctors in America that are now starting this understanding. And like I said, it's not scientific. It's observational and probability based.
It's correlational. It's correlational,
by the way,
but it could be strong.
Correlational. Well, I exactly knew the person you were talking about. It's from Run from the Cure, isn't it? I put the link in the chat. It's a pretty old movie.
I put it up on screen.
Several testimony, people testifying how it was done, how they were cured.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's good news for me, because if I'm going to die, it's not going to be a cancer, because I've smoked more than I've lost more than most people smoked. So
let's keep it broadcastable.
little flippant, but yeah. That's very interesting, Adam.
Very, very, very interesting.
I'll tell you, I'll give you a little bit more. My dad, he had glaucoma. He didn't fix his glaucoma, but before he started the treatment, we went out for a meal at a restaurant, and above the table was a big chandelier with, I don't know, 8 or 9 lights. And he says, I'm looking at that, son, and it's just one blur. Halfway through the treatment, he said, I can start to see the different lights, different lights on the chandelier. And then to celebrate, we came out to Italy after he'd been given the all clear, and he sat there and he said, I can't believe it, Dad, but through the back of Marie's headrest, he's in the back seat, he says, I can see the individual strands of Marie's hair, something I've never been able to see in 10 years, that quality of vision. So, like I say, it's making all the cells analyze themselves.
Right. Cannabis can have pretty astounding effects. I experienced this when I had it first. It kind of can, if you have the potential in yourself as a human, like awaken things in your perception. To me, it really widened my visual sensory, and so I feel like my sight in general is very high resolution and very high spectrum color, more so than I experienced than when I was 14, 15. Before that,
I think you're mixing up drugs. That's LSD.
Anyway,
no, I didn't have LSD. But, wait, no.
Anyway,
You say, wait.
He started thinking about it.
No, I did take LSD once.
Can we not have just a flat out recreational discussion about the drugs we've taken, please? Thank you.
How about psilocybin?
No mushrooms. No.
No, never tried it.
Right. Okay. Any evidence of? Quick! Somebody save me! Save this recording.
Drugs bad. Don't do drugs. Drugs bad.
Drugs are bad. Don't do drugs. Stay in school, kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
But don't listen to the globe crap.
Yeah. Any
I mean, what I
evidence
would
of
say,
gas
Nathan, on
pressure
top
was
of that,
that
then, is this isn't any fucking picnic when you undergo this. This isn't getting stoned for 3 months. This is a level of cannabis that your body's about to intake that you couldn't comprehend. When my dad was on 1 gram a day, now from an ounce of pure product, you get about 5 grams of oil. Okay, and you're ingesting 1 gram every single day. You would struggle to be able to smoke that amount, never mind. So if you think about the loading of your body when you take it, because obviously smoking is in and out very quickly. When you ingest, it's in the body and it's that saturates. So there's no benefit to smoking this stuff. It doesn't help you in terms of cancer treatment that way. But this is no picnic. This is no fun. This is a 3 months out of your life where basically you're debilitated. What we learned with Vin's mum was to try and use CBDs to try and decrease the psychoactive effect. Now, it's a strange thing, but actually loading with CBD oil in the morning when you get up helped diminish some of the psychoactive effects of the treatment, because it isn't the most pleasant of experiences, because, like I say, it just knocks you out. I mean, I remember wheeling my dad around. He was off bait, stinking of weed. I stuck him in a corner and just leave him there at family birthdays and that.
I mean, you shouldn't laugh. Oh God, I'm so sorry if you're listening to this.
Oh, wait, he made it. He just had to get really, really stoned.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's rejoicing the fact that whatever the treatment, and regardless of John's, pointing out that it is correlation based, it's not scientifically valid. Yes, it's just rejoicing the fact that it's still here. And me laughing is just the scenario being amusing. Him smelling of a recreational drug. It's just funny.
And Adam putting him in the corner in a wheelchair with a lamp stand or a lamp on his head.
With a lava lamp next to him.
No, yeah, with a lamp cover on his head. Come on, Adam.
Yeah. It was weird times, guys. Weird times. But like I say, all I can say is my dad's here. He's there. He about 2 months ago he got his results, and they're lower than mine would be now. It's just unbelievable. The hospital, when they first said we'll see you in 6 months, and he went, no, I've only you're supposed to be seeing him in 3. He said, yeah, but there's nothing wrong with you, is there? So we'll see you in 6.
That's
and this is
outstanding.
That's awesome, Adam.
Yeah, that was really awesome.
Brother.
Yeah.
Just so it doesn't go, and because it was a different person, but Joey Rocha went through pancreatic cancer. I interviewed him. He's on. I can't remember the name of the show. I think it's called Flat Earth UK. Something Pharmacy. I can't remember. Maybe Flat Earth Pharmacy. That's the name of the show. But I interviewed a guy who went through similar process, but with pancreatic cancer. I only mention it because you specifically asked, was there anybody with their experience documented in regards to pancreatic cancer? And he is one. So Joey Rocha.
And he survived?
Yeah, he's fighting fit. Still plods around. You'll see him occasionally using it. He typically uses his other half's chat account, so you'll see him going by, and everyone thinks he's a girl because it's a girl's name. I won't even repeat what it is, but certainly, yeah, Joey's out in Hawaii. He's doing his tours and showing the tourists around, and he's fighting fit and has had pancreatic cancer. So yeah, amazing story.
Yeah, it would be. That's particularly aggressive.
Right. And it sounded like Adam says, you don't want to go through the healing process, but because there's an association between cannabis and recreation, when you describe anything that's treatment based with that, it's going to get the giggles and stuff from people like us when there is a humorous aside because of that association. But nobody wants to go through treatment. You don't want to break your leg. Right. Nobody wants that. So the fact, it's ridiculous to discuss something that's actually saved somebody's life.
Sorry.
In these,
I don't know.
Not knocking you, Armin. The association is there. It's not something you've done.
Yeah,
that is just the association.
But what is
isn't
the
it?
alternative for cancer patients normally? Chemotherapy, which is known to make you violently ill sometimes.
Burn you, poison you.
Yeah, that happened to us for the past few weeks.
Exactly. So I'd rather be stoned out of my mind than violently ill.
Yeah, they either poison you, burn you,
I
or
can attest to that. My mom passed from she had bladder cancer, and then it spread to her stomach when I was 17. So I wish like these alternatives were around back then, because I literally watched her wither away because of chemotherapy. It's horrible.
Right, they're basically poisoning her.
My mother
Yeah.
too. My
Yeah,
mother was like
it's
so
horrible.
sick. So
Radiotherapy burns you. Chemotherapy poisons you. There's another way that they can treat you as well currently. What's the third one?
Well, we've got. I can't know what I can say. We're helping a lot of people, and one of the guys has been. He's a very wealthy guy, and he spent £200,000 on proton therapy, which is the new way for treating particularly brain tumors that they're using. I think it's firing protons in. He's never felt so good in the two months that he's been doing this treatment with Vin. So that proton therapy is the other one, which is I think available in America and Germany is the only places I know at the moment that's conducted. I'm not sure on the specifics of it, but it is.
I don't want to poo-poo on the correlation thing that we discussed before, because there is some scientific evidence, like Adam had pointed out, when they dose the cells with, did they dose them with THC or the CBDs? I was. What did they do?
It's the University of Madrid. It's about 1984 or 94. I can't remember the time. It's something I read a long time ago. But it's worth researching. Google have hidden it by now, but it's the University of Madrid. It's a female professor, and the data's all there. I'll try and dig it out when I get home. I've got it somewhere to share, but it's all there, and that is the only clinical data, lab data, that I've ever seen with regards to it. And like I said, that was well old.
Right.
You can dig now, and they're starting. So when I was at,
But sorry, Adam.
I was at
just before you go,
Adam.
Adam, was it THC or CBD?
No, THC.
THC.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be scientific. That would be scientific evidence, right?
Yeah.
Cause and effect.
Yeah. This was cause and effect. This was a concentration varianted and response nominated. So when saturation occurred, then apoptosis underwent. So at low doses there was no effect, but at higher doses.
Right, the dose dependent. Right, there's so many variables, man. Yeah.
Just another quick question, Adam. They fired protons. You say, well, what's a proton?
Well, there you go. I think
it's
a physical particle that they're firing.
Isn't everything in the medical science field dosage dependent?
Hold on. What's a proton?
He's poking the bear at him.
Well, it's a particle, is it?
A particle, you say? Oh, really? And they fire these particles, do they?
Yeah, they fire them.
They do.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's basically, you'd have to go back to 1900 when they were discovering the atom. See, this is frigging hundreds of years old, people. That's why we get so disgusted by this. Right?
Bloody wave particle duality. Slap, slap, slap.
Yeah, most of them say, oh, there's no atoms, there's no protons, we just made it up. Really? I know that these people have never even walked past a friggin' physics or chemistry lab. Not even walked past it. Unbelievable.
Sorry, Adam.
My bad. I was just going to add one thing that, stuff is, I was at a training day at the university the other day, and because I've got this testimony, I wandered around the pharmacy department and just bumped into a couple of people just to pass on my message. There's a guy there that's involved in the research, but it's a very, very slow thing. And I'll leave you to postulate as to why Big Pharma doesn't want to jump on this bandwagon and invest lots of money into it. But there is a serious lack of investment into something that's already yielding better results than most things, whether be they anecdotal or not, testimony of any individuals. one individual is nothing, but hundreds, thousands starts to weigh some credence to investigation. And for me, again, it's the lack of investigation and the lack of investment in this that speaks volumes, as opposed to anything more direct than that. But I've passed on.
I'll speculate then. So curing, in quotes, air quotes, cancer is very profitable. Having a cure for cancer isn't.
Especially if you can grow that shit in your back garden for pence. There is big farmers.
Can we not refer to it as that shit, please?
No. Yeah. Sorry, slang. I try not to sound too medical sometimes. I shall carry on being geeky.
You can't help it.
Is that what you call it in the medical circles? That shit.
Well, you can imagine, yeah. It's like even with darts, the word, because of the connotation.
I don't blame you, Adam. From where I'm from, that's what we could. You got that shit? Yep.
Yeah.
well timed, chocolate.
I got you.
Yeah, it's the stigma with it. I just want to address one more thing, and it came out of this was discussed a while ago, and there was a debate on, I think it was on Jem Panda's Sunday roast once.
Oh, brother!
And yeah, likening and poo-pooing any results, and they were saying no. Cannabis just makes you, it just gets you stoned, makes you hungry, gives you the munchies. And I'd just like to address one thing: in high doses, it actually forces appetite suppression. My dad lost lots and lots of weight. At no point did he feel stoned and hungry and get the munchies. And it's really, really important to differentiate between recreational use of cannabis, and it has absolutely nothing to do with its medical treatment usages. And the effects, because it is in such higher doses, actually are, let's say, counterintuitive. You'd think taking 1 gram of cannabis oil a day, which is equivalent to probably a quarter of an ounce of weed every single day, would give you ultimate munchies. But actually, physiologically, that overloading of receptors actually shuts down and actually causes an appetite suppressant effect.
So there's communication between inanimate objects.
It's definitely a different feeling ingesting it than smoking it, though. Like
so is there a communication between inanimate objects? Is that what you're saying, Adam?
No, I'm saying that because what you're doing is trying to achieve saturation to enforce cell apoptosis. This saturation of all body compartments and all the endocannabinoid receptors. When you're smoking it a little bit, the stretch receptors and baroreceptors in your stomach are kind of overladen and can be overruled.
You missed the inanimate bit.
Yeah, he's missing the point.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Just say it once
you
more.
got it too, Nathan, right?
Yeah. You say it. I'm about to round out, so you say it again. We'll get a response, and then I'll round out.
I'm just saying he said receptors a bunch of every time he said receptors, there's communication going on here, isn't there, Adam?
Oh yes. There's a lock and a key in every single one of these.
Not
Do you
inanimate.
hear that, atheist?
Not inanimate then.
No, it's one of the most amazing. It's one of the most amazing things, John, is the physicality. This is not just a simple lock and key. This is a molecular leveled lock, which is both stereoisomer based as well. It is your body.
He's talking my love language.
Key. Yeah, I know you'd like that.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. And you're right. But my overarching point was there's you kept on saying receptors, and I was trying to stop you, to say, oh, there's communication going on in here between inanimate objects. And I said, oh, atheist, are you listening? That's what I wanted to point out. Thanks, Adam. Sorry to interrupt you.
In it, John, is incomprehensible.
Are you saying the functional sequence specified complexity is incomprehensible?
It's incomprehensible by random probability.
Yeah.
And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you for all of you tuned into this premiering stream, for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. A massive thank you to all of today's debating panel. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!